Hello class, welcome to BUQU 1130 Chapter 5 Pre-Class Assignment Tutorial. This is the first question that we're going to cover today. Question 1. A firm manufactures a product that sells for $14 per unit, variable cost per unit is $2, and fixed cost per period is $1,800. Capacity per period is 2,500 units. So part A, develop an algebraic statement for the revenue function and the cost function. So for the revenue statements, what we need to know is that total revenue equals, total revenue equals price times quantity. Okay, so price times quantity. So the price here is 14, no, that's RP. So price times quantity. So we know therefore that total revenue equals 14 Q. Okay, or in this case, because they're using X as Q, so we have 14X. And as for the cost function, total cost. So total cost, there's two parts. One is the total variable cost. So total cost equals total variable cost and your total fixed cost. So for the total fixed cost, we know that total fixed cost equals 1,800. So total fixed cost equals 1,800. We know that because they tell us that the fixed cost per period is 1,800. As for the total variable cost is basically the variable cost per unit. Total variable cost equals variable cost per unit. So variable cost per unit times quantity. In this case, we know that the variable cost per unit is $2. So it'll be 2Q. Okay, so when we add the total cost up, what we have is 2X plus 1,800. So in part B, we are asked to determine the number of units required to break even. So the formula for break even, the break-even point in units is fixed cost over contribution margin per unit. Okay, so fixed cost we know is 1,800. Contribution margin per unit is basically your price minus your variable cost. Okay, so which is 1,800 over 14 minus 2. Okay, so we can type that in. $1,800 divided by 12 equals so the break-even in unit is 150 units. And then for part C, compute the break-even point as a percent of capacity. So this is fairly straightforward. We know that the capacity is 2,400 or 2,500. So we know the capacity is 2,500 and we know the break-even is 150. So it's basically 150 divided by 2,500. Okay, so we're gonna type that in. $150 divided by 2,500. Okay, so I'm gonna make it bigger. So we got 150 divided by 2,500 is basically 6%. So 0.06 equals 6%. For part D, we're asked to compute the break-even point in sales dollar. So the formula to calculate the break-even point in sales dollar is, so BEP in sales dollar is basically break-even point, BEP in units times the selling price, your price. So we know BEP in unit is 150. We calculated that before, and then P is from here, 14, and then we're going to type that in to find out what the break-even in sales dollar is. So 150 times 14 equals 2100. Okay, so there we have it. The break-even point in sales dollar is for 2100. So this is part 1 of your pre-class assignment tutorial.